Okay, here we go with a quick summary and analysis of chapter 2. In chapter 2, the guys arrive at the bunkhouse, and Curly kind of gives George and Lenny the lowdown on how things operate at the ranch. First guy that comes in after Candy, remember Candy's the guy without the hand, and he's really old, and he has the dog who's also really old and smelly, and they're both kind of like old and run down and smelly themselves. The next guy that comes in is the boss, and the boss notices that Lenny's not talking at all. And he thinks that George is trying to take advantage of Lenny. Like he's trying to get Lenny to do all this like hard manual labor and then stealing Lenny's paychecks. Now, we as the reader, we know that that's not true, although it does make sense why somebody would have that concern about Lenny and George's relationship. We know that they are two very close people and that George takes care of Lenny and has for a very long time. We learn that Curly's wife. Curly remembers the boss's son. He's the little guy who always likes to pick fights with everybody, and especially people who are bigger than him, one of those people being Lenny. Curly's wife comes in. Remember, she's never given a name. She's only ever referred to as that tart or that woman or Curly's wife. None of these are ever even capitalized. She does not have an identity. She is solely Curly's property and nothing more. This not only says a lot of things about the treatment of women at the time, but also about just the loneliness that is here on this ranch towards people who are not white men. So she comes in and she's acting super flirty, and she's like, oh, I know this is just where all the workers sleep, but have you guys seen my husband? Oh, I'm just looking for him. Oh, hi. And she's kind of flirting, and Lenny is immediately like, ooh, she's purty. And George automatically senses that this could be something potentially problematic, and especially between the tension between Curly and Lenny. So anyway, she ends up leaving, and then Slim comes in, and Slim is kind of like the prince of the ranch. And he's like, oh, hey, my dog just had puppies. And suggests to Candy that Candy shoot his old dog, even though like Candy clearly loves his old dog. And he's like, yeah, it's an old dog. What's it doing around here? It doesn't have a use. It doesn't have a purpose. It's old. It's washed out. Get rid of it. And so he tries to convince him to shoot the dog. And he also reveals that his dog had a certain number of puppies, and not all of them get to survive. I'm sorry. I'm just looking up when. In my book, it says this. Okay, she slaying her pups last night, said Slim. 9 of them. I drowned 4 of them right off. She couldn't feed that many. So this really shows how just the kind of cold detachedness from life that there is. She couldn't raise all of these puppies. Rather than worry about trying to keep them all alive, he just drowned the puppies. So it just kind of shows that they're really looking for utility. And they're not having these dogs just to keep and pet and kiss like most people do with their dogs. But these are working dogs. And I think that says a lot about things. Also, just to point out the irony of Lenny's last name. Lenny Small. He's a humongous guy. Irony. One more thing. Candy's old dog kind of also shows a theme of if you love something, let it go to avoid suffering. So Slim suggested that he kill the old dog because old dog doesn't have any teeth and it just like only drinks milk and it's like limping around. He's like, your dog is suffering, put it out of its misery, let it go. That'll become important later on. We also have a lot of small animals in this chapter, little puppies, and in the last chapter, there were mice and there were rabbits. These are also kind of representative of the things that Lenny loves and wants to show affection to, but he doesn't know his own strength and kind of harms them. And I think that's about it that we need to talk about with chapter 2.